What if I told you you could make up to $180 million in real estate sales by the time you were 22? Your next question would probably be, where do I sign up for that? Well, for Luc Lising, he doesn't have to sign up for any seminar or wonder aloud because that, my friends, is the beginning of his professional story. How did he do it, you ask? Well, he did it the old-fashioned way by forming authentic and meaningful relationships which added value to the people he wanted to gain insight from. He used some of the lessons that he learned from his mentors to pour fuel on his fire of possibilities. And now he's on a mission to help people change the way they look at their business, their health, and the possibilities for their lives. Are you ready for an engaging conversation with a millennial who really knows his business when it comes to real estate, entrepreneurship, and more? I know I am, and I'm ready to take some thought-provoking notes of impact. I hope you'll join me on this ride because, without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. If you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to learn all about your journey in real estate. Thank you for a few minutes, and happy Canadian Wednesday, my friend.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Luke, I know that your journey in real estate started when you were very young, and you've had a lot of success in the industry, selling over $180 million in real estate in the last 2 years, my friend. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about all the success that you've had and how you've got to where you are today, my friend.
Yeah, well, exactly that. I'd say thus far in my career, my biggest accomplishment is that I can confidently say that over the last 2-3 years now, my team and I, we've sold a little over $180 million worth of real estate. I got started in real estate. It's a funny story because I got licensed when I was 18 years old, but the very next day I turned 19. So you could say I started when I was 18, 19-ish. In the first year, I worked as an assistant to the top broker in all of Royal LePage Canada, which, to your US listeners, Royal LePage is essentially the Keller Williams equivalent in Canada. So we have a really large organization, thousands and thousands of agents. And I worked for the top dog in our industry for 1 year as his assistant. And ever since then, after that, I took off, did my own business. I still work with this gentleman very closely. But yeah, alone by myself, I've done well over $180 million worth of real estate sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, talk to me about selling during COVID. And, a lot of things shut down, but people still needed places to live. So tell me about that process and how it worked for you, buddy.
Yeah, that's a great question, because when I started off by myself in this business, it was about 2020. And that's exactly also when COVID shut us all down. You couldn't leave your house. In certain parts of the country, there's curfews, like in Quebec. There wasn't much that you could do. So I was starting my business with no experience, no sales. Guidance, yes, is something that I'm very thankful for. But other than that, I didn't have anything else during lockdowns. And the crazy part about all of that is now that the lockdowns are over, we're now headed fast into a recession. So it's like thus far in my career, I haven't been able to catch a break because we've been going through this lockdown and now recessions. But to me, it doesn't matter what the market does, nor does it matter what the weather is like, because regardless of what's happening outside of my control, the same work still needs to get done. So it was quite difficult. But I mean, when things do get easier, when things pick back up, it's gonna be nothing to me because I'm used to doing deals, meeting with people when it was very difficult and almost impossible really to meet people. So I mean, it was difficult just like everybody else. Lots of businesses were closed, lots of jobs were lost. But I mean, those were the cards that were dealt with. We can either sit down, sit on the sidelines and cry about it, or we can just do what needs to get done anyway. And that's what I've been doing at a larger scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, as you know, real estate and any other business is about building relationships, buddy. And I know that because I host this podcast and I also do some motivational speaking as well. So tell me, buddy, I'm curious to ask you about the process of building relationships and how important that is, and any tips that you have for people that may not readily build relationships easily, and how important it is to sort of push yourself outside of your comfort zone when you're building relationships.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the harsh truth is that the key to building a relationship is dependent on the amount of value you bring to the individual that you are speaking to or building a relationship with. I'll give you an example. In my network, I have a number of different people that I care about and I don't care about. The people that I care about the most are the ones that bring me the most value, as harsh as that sounds, and the people that I don't even think about on a daily basis or that don't even cross my mind are the ones that don't bring me much value. A lot of people say, oh, well, yeah, my friend is so important to me because he or she, like, he's funny. But to me, it's just like that's what you care about, their sense of humor, like that's valuable to you. They make you laugh. Sure, that's great. But what happens when the country locks down for 2.5 months and now you don't have any cash flow and your business is starting to take a big hit? Can that person help you? Or you think the jokes are going to get you through a pandemic, through the lockdowns? Yeah, think again. Because with that said, the key to building relationships, the key to networking is based on the value that you can provide. So what I like to tell a lot of people when they ask me what line of work I'm in, I don't tell people that I'm in real estate or that I'm a realtor. I tell them that I'm a problem solver. Because if you have a problem that needs to be solved, regardless of the industry or the business that you're in, I know somebody that knows somebody that can fix your problem. So speak to me and I'll get it done. And because I approach networking from that perspective, it's very easy for me to build relationships with people because they know that I have the solution to any problem that they have. So that keeps me at the top of their priority list. I'm not just one of those friends that they can take down to the pub and say a couple of jokes and then now all of a sudden I'm their best friend. And that's not the key to networking. It's the value that you bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Value, time is money, and you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know sometimes, and the value that you bring is essentially important. So talk to me about sort of discerning how you know you bring value to a person. How do you define the value add you bring to people? I'm fascinated to get your answer there.
Yeah, well, everybody's situation is different. And you can bring value to someone, and the great metric just to track that is to see how differently their lives change, and you'll be able to notice that by the way they treat you. So if you like if I were to give you right now, Kevin, $1 million, you're going to treat me with a different level of respect versus if I didn't. It's because of the amount of value that I brought to you, right? So the way you treat people and the way they treat you back in return, that's how you'll know if you're making an impact on them. People will actually go out their way to reach out to you, to connect with you, to do all sorts of things to better your life if you're benefiting theirs. If you don't hear from somebody for a couple of years, you're probably no value to them anyway.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about staying connected, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's all it is. And no better way than the metaverse that we live in now. I mean, Kevin, you and I just started speaking a couple of days ago about doing this podcast, and here we are on a Zoom call speaking to your audience about how to network, how to connect with other people, like-minded people. The internet is also a great way to do that.
Indeed. And Luke, you also teach people how to take actionable steps to change their lives, their business, and change their health, buddy. So I'm wondering if you can talk to me about the mission that you have in that regard.
Yeah, I think the most actionable step that anyone take today, regardless of the industry you're in, is to network and find somebody that's at the top of your industry and see how you can bring them value. Sometimes people have told me, look, Luke, I've been doing this for 5-6 years now. I've never made a significant breakthrough. I've never made a significant amount of money in my business. I don't know what I'm doing. They're lost. That for me to wrap my head around that, I just truly don't understand. Because the first thing I would have done in any industry, it doesn't matter if I'm selling real estate or if it's in cars, the first thing you have to do is stop and think, who's at the top of this industry? Who is killing it in this business? In my case, it was real estate. Then you have to then ask yourself is, how can I bring that person value to allow them to let me into their circle, or excuse me, to have them let me into their circle? When you ask that, one, you get to start to think, who's killing it? What are they doing? And how are they doing it? And then now you start to think of ways you can bring them value. And in exchange, they'll be more than welcome and happy to mentor you and guide you. And the reason why I think that's the first step anyone should take is because when I first started in real estate, I was constantly hitting my head against the wall. I was spending thousands of dollars out of my own money into advertising, and I couldn't put together a single deal. When I joined and got mentored by Jazz Takar, who was my mentor a couple of years ago, he taught me everything that he knew because of the value I brought to him. In exchange for that, I learned how to put deals together. I learned how to do $180 million worth of sales in real estate sales. So the first thing anyone should do, it doesn't matter if you're in fitness, selling cups, selling shoes, find the person at the top of your industry and learn from them. And the only way that they're going to be willing to teach you is by first bringing them value.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, we're talking to you. We share the same synergy in terms of building authentic connections because, when you deal with any sort of person in a professional setting, a lot of people know how to cut through what I call the white noise and the BS and really know whether you're serious or not. So how do you think you can remain authentic so that people sort of are drawn to help you in terms of a business perspective or wants to see you succeed? So how do you demonstrate authenticity, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I think you just have to be as vulnerable as possible because people can smell when you're not being authentic. If I could tell somebody's being a little bit too arrogant, a little bit too cocky, you can smell that there's something that they're hiding. You can just see it in somebody's eyes, the way they carry themselves, the way they groom themselves, the way they dress. You can smell it in their breath. In our industry, it's called commission breath. You can smell when somebody's out for a sale and that they're not looking out for you. The best way to be authentic is to be vulnerable. Now, it doesn't mean exposing all your secrets and releasing your tax returns. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is being completely honest about where you are, what you intend to accomplish. And when people can smell that you're being genuine about it, people are more likely to help you. In my case, when I reached out to my mentor 3 years ago, I sat and told him, listen, I'm 18 years old. I have no money in my account. I've done 0 deals in real estate. I've been doing this for 6 months and I've lost money because I'm spending it blindly without any return coming in. Can you just please teach me? In exchange, I will change your life by doing X, Y, Z. When you come with that approach, people are more receptive to help you. So your question about how do you be more authentic? You just got to be more authentic. Cut the garbage. Throw out all the garbage that you think that you need to put on some kind of image. People are more likely to help you if you're vulnerable and open and honest than if you try to put on a mask, because you can easily smell it within seconds, like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I know that you also run 2 separate companies that are completely different from each other, buddy. So I'm curious to ask you about your definition of business diversification and how you define that as a term, and about your businesses too.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Business diversification is very important because when one industry takes a hit, you have another one to support your income. So in my case, I'm in real estate, and my second business that I started last year is in the auto industry. I own a company called Auto Vision GTA, and what we do is we help used car dealerships detail their cars so before they get sold, they look nice and pristine. So that's what my team does full time. I have a team of full-time detailers that are constantly helping our dealership clients detail their cars. And whenever one business is slow, at least I got income from another one. So I think it's very important that you diversify, only because in that way, all of your eggs are not in one basket.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I'm just going to share just a little bit about myself. So anybody that listens or watches this podcast knows that I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And outside of hosting this podcast, my friend, I also help businesses amplify their hiring of folks with disabilities. So I'm curious, you talked about diversification. So I'm also curious to ask you about including folks with disabilities in the workforce and how important do you think that is in developing a competitive advantage?
Yeah, so to me, I don't look at the person as whether they're black or white, disabilities or not. To me, that genuinely doesn't matter. I have people on my team that are within the age of 20, people on my team that are over the age of 50. I have people like, if you take a look at REC Canada, our profile, that's the team that I'm licensed under. You can see that there's no two people with the same color. We're all different. To me, it comes down to the attitude. Are you willing to show up every single day, no matter what the market is dictating, no matter what the economists are saying? Are you willing to work? Are you willing to get the job done? Are you competent? Are you fast? Are you able to get the job done in a timely manner without compromising quality? If you're able to do all of these things, to me, it doesn't matter how many disabilities you have. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin tone is. I just want people on my team that can get it done. I never think twice about the age of somebody. I never sit down across somebody and think, this guy's too young. I think, is this guy qualified? Is this guy competent? Is this guy going to screw me over? Is he going to steal from me? I don't think about anything else except for their integrity and their character, and more importantly, their attitude and work ethic.
Yeah, and Luke, I want to go back to the beginning of your real estate career, buddy, because as you mentioned, you started it when you were 19 and you networked your way up, buddy. And I have much respect for you because I know how difficult starting from the bottom and growing something is, buddy. So talk to me about how you found success as a young entrepreneur and the importance of tenacity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This goes back to my main point earlier. The reason I was able to succeed so much in such a short amount of time is simply because I had the network and the guidance that prevented me from hitting my head repeatedly against the wall. My advice for anybody that's listening is to, again, look at the top of your industry and who's killing the game. Reach out to that person and think of a way that you can do. Think of something you can do to provide that person value. That person in exchange will bring value to your life because they're not going to want to lose you. These rich, wealthy people that are killing it in the game, they're not stupid. They understand that in order to keep a competent and qualified person on their team, they have to, in return, compensate them accordingly. So the more value that you can bring to that person, the more likely they are to keep and retain you on their team. In exchange, you can watch what they do. You can listen to their sales calls. You can understand how they operate their day-to-day business and then use that into your own business. And this is me assuming that I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, but this can be applied to anybody. If you want to be a chef, learn from the top dog in the business and do exactly what I just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I know you live in Toronto and you're a native of Filipino-Canadian, buddy. And I know that your heritage is important to you and living in Canada as well. So talk to me about celebrating your heritage and the best part about being Canadian as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of Filipinos here in Canada, but I take pride in the fact that I was actually born in the Philippines. I take pride of the fact that I immigrated here into Canada. I take pride in the fact that my parents are like they spent their entire life growing up in the Philippines, and they brought me here to, obviously, just like any other, immigrant parents bringing their children and their family, they did it because I can have a better life. I thank them, but I tell them every day, it doesn't matter if you put me in the Philippines again, or if I'm staying here in Canada. I'm gonna get shit done. Doesn't matter where I am. So I take pride in the fact that in my bloodline, we are known for being relentlessly hard workers. So it's great to be doing that here in the great, beautiful country of Canada. I think there's a lot of shifts being made to this country from a political perspective, and being the perspicacious individual I am, I'm being very open to a lot of changes and opportunities coming up. And I think that a lot of those people that are also paying attention to the changes that are happening, there's a lot of money to be made. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, when you look at society today from a socio-economic and political perspective, I'm fascinated to get a millennial's perspective on what do you think the state of society is today?
I think it depends on who you ask. From somebody that lives in Canada, I think Canada and the West is a failing society. I say that because there has been, and if you haven't noticed it over the last 3 years, I think you've been living under a rock, because the global elites, if you want to call them, they're making a strong push for more control. And it's become clearer and clearer as the days go by. So what I believe is that there's going to be a major shift in power in the West. There's a lot of movements being made in China and Russia and all these other powerhouses across the globe. I think that we're intentionally being fed a narrative that is actually far from the truth. I think the truth is always somewhere in between. I don't think it's far right or far left. I think it's always somewhere in between. With that said, I think that, from like my perspective, from a political perspective, I think that you have to be able to adjust as policies adjust, as the economies adjust. We're talking about CBDCs. We're talking about all the wars that are happening. There's a lot of things happening here in the West that's actually making our country weaker and weaker, and the value go down of the Canadian dollar. So what to do, that I don't know myself just yet. What I'm personally doing is I'm networking with political figures. I'm networking with executives across the country, because those guys and gals, they know things, because they have friends that are high up in the hierarchy, if you want to call it. And if I can bring value to these people in exchange, they'll let me know what's going on, and then from there I can make my decisions accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast was I look at the world, my friend, and I said there are so many devices that are working to pull us apart instead of bringing us together. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today was because I wanted your perspective on how we build more bridges of unity and understanding when it comes to a societal perspective where we're all heard, valued, and respected. So what's your answer to how we build more bridges of unity in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, because there's a spiritual war going on that a lot of people don't understand, or that don't even know is happening. There's a lot of division being created between all of us. They're turning the Democrats against the Republicans, the liberals against the conservatives. To build more bridges, we all first and foremost need to understand that we're all the same. We're like liberals and conservatives. We're two sides of the same coin. Both parties are controlled by a small group of people, a small group of men. So if we understand that we're being fed this narrative that's not true, if we're being fed this agenda that is really just meant to be used against us, not to, put us together, but more so to bring us apart. If we first understand that, we can start to live in harmony. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of talks from the red pill space about how men and women are doing this, and women can do that, and men are doing that. I think if we just understand that if men are men and women are women, and if we can live in synergy and harmony together, the energy that we can have as a pair, as a couple, can be a beautiful thing. But instead, we're being fed this agenda that it's better for us to have our own thoughts, for us to be independent, for us to do things our separate ways, as if we don't need each other. We very much need each other. Men need women and women need men. So to answer your question, Kevin, how do we build more bridges instead of burning down bridges? I think we need to first understand that the powers that are, above government, the powers that we don't even get to see, if we understand that these people, the small group of people, are controlling a narrative and pushing an agenda to, first of all, destroy the relationships we have with each other, then we can start to look for ways to build these bridges rather than burn them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I want to have a little bit of fun with you before we end our conversation today. So, buddy, I want to know, what is the one thing, if you had sort of a hall pass for the day, that you would binge on, whether it be food or whether it be an activity, or, well, what's your guilty pleasure, my friend? I'm fascinated.
I think if anybody was to open on my Instagram, which is at Luc Lising, LucLising, you're going to see that I binge on cigars. I'm a big cigar guy. I love smoking cigars. I don't smoke weed. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't do drugs. I don't do none of that stuff. Occasionally I'll drink alcohol, but my main vice is cigars. I love me a fine Cuban cigar. Every now and then I'll have a Dominican. I'm a cigar guy. That's all I got to say. I'm a cigar guy. I know a couple of places that sells good cigars, and I like to have cigars. I like to have cigars every now and then.
Well, that's the way you find your inner center, right? When you close a big real estate deal or you help somebody out, it's all about celebrating life, isn't it, Luke?
Absolutely. And guess what, Kevin? We celebrate every single day, which is why some may call it unhealthy. I don't care. I smoke a cigar every single day.
Well, your lungs may not like you, but it's all about living in the moment, right?
That's it.
Hey, Luke, tell me, when you look at your professional and personal legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
That's a great question. I thought long and hard about this, and as of right now, I find that it's always changing. But I think the most important thing to me is that I stand true to my character and I don't fold to any kind of pressure or any kind of, I don't even know, the devil's works. I'm a very religious man. So if I can live and die knowing that I stuck true to my character and I never sold my soul, then to me, I'm happy. So when I pass, I want people to confidently say, Luke, that guy, no matter the craziest shit that this guy says, he never sold himself out. He never to anyone or cheated on anyone. That guy was genuinely honest. Then yeah, I can live confidently and happily.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, my final question for you today has to do with your energy, buddy. You seem to be a very energetic and fun-loving person. So tell me about living life with energy and passion and how important that is to you.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that because I've been told that. But the only reason why I'm able to live with such high energy and with such high passion about everything that I do on a day-to-day basis is because I stay healthy. I exercise at least 5 times a week. And because of that, I feel good every single day. A strong body equals a strong mind. So the better you look, the more you exercise and the more you keep your body healthy, the more effective you are when it comes to your work performance. And overall, the better you feel. The people can feel that energy when you're happier and healthier. And the only way to do that is by having a strong body.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, finally tell me, if people want to get connected with you, buddy, what's the best way they can do that?
I'm probably most active on Instagram, which is at Luc Lising. Or you can reach me on my website, which is also luclising.com. I don't sell anything. I don't have a course, training program, or consulting course that you can go through. The only thing I do is I give free advice. So on my website, I have a free newsletter, and there you can sign up, put your email address in, and you can get free daily advice from someone that sold well over $180 million of real estate by the age of 22. I'm not the wisest man on the planet, but I do have a different and unique perspective to share on sales, business development, life, politics, economics, things of that sort. So if anybody wants to get in touch and learn more about me, there you can sign up for my newsletter.
Fantastic. Well, Luke, I'm certainly grateful that you found marriage and time to talk to me this afternoon about your journey in real estate life and business and everything in between, my friend. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here this afternoon, Bonnie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kevin. What you're doing is amazing and never seen before. So when you're ridiculously famous, just don't forget me.
Well, I'll give you 10% of my commission check, okay?
Hey, I have that on camera. I have that on camera.
You can hold me to it, okay?
Love it, brother. Love it. Thank you so much.